I still remember the first time we saw the house. It was a small, single-story place on the edge of town. Old but not too old. Quiet. Private. Exactly what we wanted. Me and Rachel had been looking for months. Every apartment we checked out was either too expensive, too cramped, or in a bad area. But this house felt right. At least that's what we thought. Now, I wish we had never stepped inside. It was a Tuesday morning when we got the keys. The landlord was a thin man in his 60s. Friendly, but something about him felt off. Not in a creepy way. Just distant. Like he wanted to be done with this place. "It's all yours," he said, handing me the keys. "Hope you two make good memories here." I thanked him. Rachel was already excitedly exploring. Checking out the rooms, picturing where the furniture would go. I followed her inside. And for the first time I felt it. Something was wrong. Nothing obvious. No weird smells. No dark stains on the floor. But the air felt off. Like a house that had been empty for too long. Like the walls were waiting for something. "Babe, come look at this." Rachel's voice snapped me out of it. I followed her to the bedroom. She was standing by the closet. The door was half open. "What is it?" I asked. She grinned and stepped inside. "It's bigger than I thought. We can actually fit all our stuff in here." I forced a smile. But I wasn't looking at Rachel. I was looking at the back wall of the closet. Because unlike the rest of the house, it was new. The drywall was freshly painted. Like someone had sealed something up. We spent the rest of the day unpacking. By nightfall, we were too exhausted to cook. I went out and grabbed takeout. When I got back, Rachel was in the bathroom, brushing her teeth. I set the food down on the kitchen counter. And that's when I heard it. A creak. From the bedroom. I frowned. "Rachel." No answer. Another creak. Like someone stepping on the wooden floorboards. I grabbed my phone. Used the flashlight to check the bedroom. Empty. The closet door was still closed. The room was silent. I let out a shaky breath. Rachel came out of the bathroom. "What's wrong?" "I thought I heard something." She rolled her eyes. "New house noises, babe. Relax." I forced a laugh. She was probably right. Probably. That night I barely slept. I kept waking up. Kept hearing things. Creaks. Shuffling. Faint scratching. At one point I swear I heard breathing. But every time I checked, Rachel was fast asleep. So I convinced myself it was in my head. That I was just being paranoid. Until the next morning, when we found the kitchen chairs moved. I stared at the kitchen chairs. They weren't where we left them. Rachel stood beside me, still half asleep, her coffee mug in hand. "Did you move them?" I asked. She frowned. "Why would I?" I didn't have an answer. But there was no way in hell I moved them, either. The chairs were pushed away from the table. Not knocked over. Not scattered. Just pulled back. Like someone had been sitting there in the dark. Watching us. Waiting. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. Rachel gave me a nervous smile. "Maybe you did it in your sleep." I forced a laugh. "Yeah, maybe." But I knew that was bullshit. And Rachel knew it too. By lunchtime, we had almost convinced ourselves it didn't matter. Maybe we had bumped the chairs while unpacking. Maybe we were just tired. But the feeling didn't go away. That uneasy, creeping sense that something in the house was wrong. And that feeling was strongest in one place. The bedroom closet. Rachel was the first to say it. "I don't like that closet." I turned from unpacking boxes. "Why?" She hesitated. "I don't know. It just feels weird." I nodded. "Yeah, the wall in there is new." Her forehead creased. "What do you mean?" I pointed. "The back wall. The drywall is fresh. Someone patched it up recently." Rachel stared at the closet door. Then she walked straight toward it. Before I could say anything, she yanked it open. The air inside was cooler. Like the closet was somehow separate from the rest of the house. Rachel ran her fingers over the back wall. Knocked on it. It sounded hollow. She turned to me. "What if something's behind it?" I swallowed. "Like what?" She shrugged. "I don't know. Storage space? A hidden room? A joke?" But we both knew it didn't feel like a joke. By nightfall, I was exhausted. Rachel was already in bed, curled up under the blankets. I turned off the lights and slid in beside her. But I couldn't sleep. Something was keeping me awake. Something I couldn't place. Then, a noise. A soft, dragging sound. Coming from the closet. I held my breath. Listened. At first, I thought it was just my imagination. But then, it happened again. A slow, scraping sound. Like something shifting inside the wall. Rachel stirred beside me. "What was that?" she whispered. I exhaled. "I don't know." She turned over, facing me. Her eyes were wide. "You heard it too?" I nodded. We lay there, silent, listening. The house was completely still. And then, bang, a loud thud from inside the closet. Rachel bolted upright. "What the hell was that?" I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight. The closet door was still shut, but something had moved inside. I got up, walked toward the closet. Rachel grabbed my arm. "Don't." I ignored her, pressed my ear against the door. Silence. Then, a faint rustling sound. I flung the door open, shined the flashlight inside. Nothing. The closet was empty. I let out a shaky breath. Rachel exhaled beside me. "Jesus, that scared me." I forced a smile. "It's just the house settling." She didn't look convinced. Neither was I. The next morning, I woke up to Rachel already out of bed. I found her in the bedroom, kneeling in front of the closet. She had a knife in her hand, scraping at the wall. "What are you doing?" I asked. She didn't look at me. She kept scraping. "There's something behind this wall." I rubbed my eyes. "Rachel." "No, listen." She knocked on the drywall. Hollow. Then, she pointed at the bottom corner. There was a small gap where the baseboard had pulled away. And inside that gap, I saw it. A strip of old, yellowed wallpaper. From behind the new wall, my stomach twisted. Someone had covered something up. Something they didn't want anyone to see. Rachel's breathing was shaky. "We need to open it." I stared at the wall, at the gap, and deep in my gut, I knew, whatever was behind there, should stay buried. Rachel was determined. She wanted the wall open. "Just a small hole," she said. "Enough to see what's behind it." I didn't want to. Everything in me screamed to leave it alone. But the moment I saw the yellowed wallpaper behind the gap, I knew this wasn't just a normal renovation. Someone had sealed something up. And whatever was behind this wall, they never wanted anyone to find it. Rachel grabbed a hammer from the toolbox. I stood back, watching as she pressed the claw end against the drywall. She looked at me. I hesitated. Then I nodded. She swung. The first hit sent dust spilling into the air. The second cracked the drywall open. The third, a hole, just big enough to see through. Rachel shined her phone flashlight inside. We both leaned in, and my stomach dropped, because behind the wall was a room, the secret room. The flashlight beam cut through the dusty air. It wasn't just a gap behind the wall. It was an entire room. Small, cramped, windowless. A room that should not exist. A room that had been hidden on purpose. Rachel's breath hitched. "Oh my God!" I swallowed. "What the hell is this?" She didn't answer. She just reached through the hole and peeled away more drywall. And that's when we saw it. The thing that made my hands go numb. The thing that made my vision blur. The thing that made me wish we had never opened that wall. A chair, right in the center of the room. A metal folding chair, bolted to the floor. And around the chair, deep scratches in the wood, like someone had been trying to get out. For a long, long time. "I want to see inside," Rachel whispered. I didn't. Every instinct in me screamed to seal the hole back up and forget this ever happened. But Rachel was already pulling more drywall away. The hole got bigger. And that's when we noticed it. The other door. There was a door inside the secret room. Not a normal door. Not something that led to another part of the house. This was a reinforced steel door. The kind of door that locks from the outside. The kind of door you use when you don't want something getting out. "This isn't right," I muttered. Rachel ignored me. She grabbed the hammer again. I'm opening it. I stepped in front of her. Rachel, stop. She looked at me, eyes blazing. Someone was locked in here, Jack. Her voice shook. We need to know why. I stared at her, then at the door inside the hidden room. And I knew, if we opened it, there was no going back. Rachel raised the hammer. I sighed, turned toward the kitchen to grab a crowbar. And then, I froze, because I heard it. Something soft, slow. A single footstep in the hallway. My blood turned to ice. Rachel heard it too. She whipped around. Jack! I didn't answer. I was too busy staring at the hallway. The house was silent. Still. But we both knew. Someone else was here. I grabbed my rifle. Stepped into the hallway. Rachel followed, her breath shaky. We moved slowly, carefully. Through the hall. Past the bathroom. Into the kitchen. And that's when we saw it. Something was on the table. Something that wasn't there before. A small, red box. Wrapped neatly. With a bow. I felt like I was going to throw up. Jack! Rachel whispered. I swallowed. Stepped forward. I already knew. Whatever was inside was going to be bad. But I had to look. I reached out. Untied the bow. Lifted the lid. And inside was a set of keys. Rusty. Old. With a single leather tag. Burned into the surface. Cellar. I didn't want to touch the keys. But I couldn't look away either. They sat in that small red box, old and rusted. The leather tag cracked with age. One word burned into it. Cellar. Rachel stood beside me, silent. Staring. The house was too quiet. Like it was waiting for us to make a decision. Where's the cellar? Rachel whispered. I hesitated. Then it hit me. There was a door in the laundry room. I had noticed it when we first moved in. It had been painted over, sealed shut. I had assumed it was just an old storage space. Now I wasn't so sure. We moved slowly toward the laundry room. The floorboards creaked beneath our feet. The air felt thicker, heavier, like we were walking toward something we weren't supposed to find. I reached the door, ran my fingers along the edges of the frame. The paint had been layered on thick, sealing the cracks. Someone hadn't just closed this door. They had tried to erase it. I slid the key into the lock. Rachel held her breath. For a moment, I thought it wouldn't turn. Then a click. The door creaked open. And the smell hit us instantly. The descent. The stench was thick, damp, rotting. Like something had been left down there for too long. The stairs led into pure blackness. The air was cold. Colder than it should have been. Like the ground itself was swallowing the heat. I clicked on my flashlight. Rachel grabbed my arm. Jack, I don't think we should. We have to, I said, because deep down, I already knew. The answer to everything was down there. We stepped down. The stairs groaned under our weight. Dust swirled in the flashlight beam. The deeper we went, the worse the smell got. And then we reached the bottom, and saw what had been hidden for years. The cellar room. It was small, cramped. The walls were made of concrete, stained with something dark. There were hooks on the ceiling, chains on the floor, and in the corner, a second chair, identical to the one behind the drywall upstairs, bolted to the ground, with more deep, desperate scratches around it. Like someone had been trapped down here. For a long, long time. Rachel covered her mouth. Jesus Christ. I stepped forward, heart hammering. There were papers scattered on the floor. Old yellow documents. I picked one up. Read the first few lines. And my hands started shaking. The truth about the house. It wasn't a normal house. It had never been. The documents were case files. Medical records. From the previous owner. A man named Thomas Aldrich. A psychiatrist. Who had run a private practice. Right here. Inside this house. Rachel took a step closer. Jack, look at this. She picked up another document. Handwritten notes. Scrawled in tight, messy letters. I read over her shoulder. The words made my stomach turn. Patient has been uncooperative. Shows signs of severe paranoia. Continues to express delusions that people are watching and the house is listening. Increased restraints. No outside contact allowed. Sessions to continue daily. If progress is not made soon, alternative measures must be considered. I looked at Rachel. This isn't a cellar. My voice was hoarse. This was a holding cell. The scratches on the wall. Rachel turned toward the far wall. There were markings etched into the concrete. Not words. Numbers. Dozens of them. Tally marks. Days. Weeks. Months. Someone had been locked down here. Rachel grabbed my arm. Jack. There's something else. She was staring at the far corner of the room, where something was wedged against the wall. Something wrapped in plastic. A large, rectangular shape. I took a shaky step forward, kneeled down, pulled the plastic away, and felt my blood turn to ice, because inside was a mirror, and carved into the glass, scratched over and over again, were the words, "I never left." The words on the mirror burned into my brain. I never left. Rachel's breathing was shaky. Jack, what does that mean? I couldn't answer, because deep down I already knew. The case files, the chair bolted to the floor, the scratches on the walls, the steel door upstairs, the mirror in front of us. It all added up to one horrible, inescapable truth. This wasn't just a house. This was a prison, and someone never left. I turned to Rachel. We need to go. Her eyes darted to the staircase. What if someone's still here? I swallowed hard. We're not waiting to find out. I grabbed her wrist, started toward the stairs. But then, a noise. The cellar door closes. A creak from above. Then, footsteps. Slow, deliberate, walking across the floor above us. Rachel's grip tightened on my arm. Jack. I raised a finger to my lips. Waited. Listened. The footsteps stopped. Then the cellar door creaked and slammed shut. Rachel gasped. I ran to the stairs, taking them two at a time. Grabbed the door handle. Twisted it, locked. My stomach dropped. Hey! I banged against the wood. Who's up there? No answer. Just the sound of someone walking away. The floorboards creaked. Then silence. Rachel was panicking. Jack, what the hell is going on? I didn't know. I didn't want to know. All I knew was we needed to get out. I scanned the cellar walls. There had to be another way. And then I saw it. A vent. Small, rusted over. Too small for me, but Rachel, you can fit through that, I said. Rachel looked at me. What? No, I'm not leaving you down here. Rachel, listen. You crawl through, unlock the door from the outside. Then we get the hell out of here. She hesitated, then nodded. I grabbed a wrench from the floor, started busting the vent cover loose. Took minutes. Every second felt too long. Finally, the vent was open. Rachel crawled inside, disappeared into the darkness. I waited, heart pounding. Then, a scream. I froze. Rachel! Nothing. Just silence. Then her voice. Shaky. Terrified. Jack! I think I found something. I didn't think. I just moved. Followed the vent opening into another section of the cellar. The air was stagnant. Heavy. Like it had been untouched for years. And then I saw what Rachel was looking at. And I felt my whole body go cold. A bed. A rotting, stained mattress. A bucket in the corner. A single light bulb hanging from the ceiling. And on the walls, Polaroid photos. Dozens of them. Pinned up like a shrine. And every single one of them was of Rachel. My breath hitched. Rachel's voice was barely a whisper. Jack! These are from years ago. I stepped closer. My hands were shaking. She was right. The clothes she was wearing. The hairstyles. Some of these pictures were old. From before we met. But how? How was that possible? Then my eyes dropped to the floor, where something was half buried in the dust. A notebook. I picked it up. Flipped it open. The handwriting was erratic. Messy. Pages filled with frantic, repeated sentences. Over and over again. She belongs here. I'll bring her back. She never should have left. The last entry was dated a week ago, and below it one last note. In red ink. She came home. My stomach twisted. This house, it wasn't just some random house. Rachel wasn't just some random person. She was the reason this house was abandoned. She had been here before. She had escaped. And now someone had brought her back. A noise. From the cellar stairs. Footsteps. Coming down. Rachel grabbed my arm. Jack, we need to go. I turned off the flashlight. Plunged the room into darkness. And we listened. As the steps got closer. And closer. And then, the voice. A low, raspy whisper. I told you, Rachel. You were never supposed to leave.